without further ado, I want to introduce one of our long-standing board members, Judy Ryerson. 10 years ago, was it? Yeah. Anyway, some time ago, she did a program on the old houses of Moultonborough, and it wasn't one that I saw, so every year I'd say, do you think Judy would do this again? Do you think? And so this year we convinced her that she should do an update or a continuation of the program on the old houses of Moultonborough. And so that's our program this evening. Our next meeting will be second Tuesday of October, and the program is didn't come prepared. Anyway, that'll be the next meeting, and if you put your name on there, you'll get a reminder, so we don't have to do that.
I'm just making this last minute change. I realize if I sat over there, that there's no audio in this, that you would never hear me. So I better sit up front. And so I don't have a podium or a table or anything. I'm making this improvised. I hope this stretches. Yes, thank you, Sam. Well, just for a moment first, couple of things. As Mary suggested, about 10, 12 years ago, some members of society and I embarked on a project to do an inventory of all the old houses in Moultonborough. We had great ambitions that someday we would know something about all of these houses, but right now all we know is the 911 number. And it is based on a visual identification of the houses based on certain cues, but also based on maps. This Carroll County map, this is 1860, and then there's another one that was done in this one that was done in 92. And so we just prowled the roads and said there was a house here in 60 and it was still here in 92 and so forth. And these are interesting because they actually give the names of the people living there. So you can cross-check with vital statistics or census or cemeteries. Cemeteries are great. And so we did some of that work, and a couple times I did talks on this, different aspects, and I apologize if any of this is a repeat for any of you, but tonight I was just going to try to focus on a few houses in this center of town in what we call Moultonborough Corner, although here it's called the Square, which is very nice. You see throughout here, you see these familiar names. Freeze was the one of the store owners in town. I can't remember. I think he owned this store or that store. Maybe Francis knows which one. But anyway, but before I do that, I just want to take a little survey of some of the other houses. Now, can you all see? Okay, so I will make it a little dimmer. How about that? Whoops, it's a lot dimmer. Well, just as well. This way I don't have to.
Anybody afraid of dark?
Can we just do, is it just some of the ranker plates that we could do? No, okay. Anyway, so this is the Square. That's right around a little after probably the turn of the century. I don't know exactly the date, but maybe somebody does. It's very common. It's postcard, so it will have a postmark in the back. You can actually see the imprint. And I think it may be the library. But,
would that have been a dirt road?
oh yeah, I think so. Pretty sure, yeah. But again, I just want to start by looking at these houses in general, this is a very old house, and it is on off Bean Road. Its front, you never see the front facade unless you live on Millville Road, or Manville Road, because the facade faces Manville Road. But the important thing is that it faces south. Early houses often face south. So when we roamed around town, if we saw a south-facing house, we wrote that down. This is a south-facing house. And that means it's probably a little early. It probably also has a central, it definitely had a central chimney. I don't know why that stack is so high, but, it's not my problem. And it has small windows. This house on Lakeshore Drive, some people know it, some people are neighbors. And this one has a wonderful story about it. It was moved from Long Island or the end of the neck, I can't remember which, across the ice in the winter and settled down there on Lakeshore Drive. And this also indicates changes in population distribution throughout the period. And, I did like the thing, sorry. And this is also another fascinating, wonderful old house in Moultonborough. It was, I think, originally the house of a man named Duncan, who was a ferryman. And he ran the ferry that went back and forth between the Neck and East Moultonborough, which was the main center of activity there. A couple of other interesting things about this. This is a little wider than it shows because I'm off here. But that door, it doesn't have side lights or top lights on it, which is unusual for an old building. And that probably indicates the door just went right into the main room. So there was already a window there, so they didn't need the side lights. But you will very usually see side lights on these old
Where was that house, Judy?
That's it. Part of Camp Tecumseh now. It's called the Lodge. And after Duncan lived there, it became the Poor Farm, the Moultonborough Poor Farm. And also people who were adjudged to be insane were also kept there, and some of the old cells are still there. It's a fascinating, wonderful building, and the camp is doing a wonderful job of keeping it. This is another old house. This is on Lee Road, and you can see it again, small windows, central chimney, side lights, and those are the things that, at least I look for when I go around and I look for houses. And I ask myself, who lived there? Why was it built there? Who lived there subsequently, like with the Poor Farm? Who lived there later? Well, this building is also interesting. No side lights on the door, but it's central, and it looks like there'll be a hallway behind. But I think, in fact, no. They changed this just a few years ago. The door used to be off-center, right where that window was, and you can still see the ghost of the old path that goes up to it. Because that door entered directly into one of the side rooms. It was a very unusual style. It was called square plan style. But there were some of them. And this, another indication, you have the big fat fireplace in the middle, indicating there was a central fireplace. It may not be there anymore, but it's a lot easier to leave the stack. Then something unusual happened. This is the predominant style in the first early years of Moultonborough. Moultonborough started small and was growing. By now it was probably around 900 people. And then this happened. Bruce Carey. This also was a house that Bob Lankford did. Greek Revival came along, about 1830. So again, you begin to see, still you've got the side lights, now you've got the chimneys are a little different, so probably it's not wood burning, they're probably using coal now. And, but they are using this new Greek Revival style, which was very popular. But you really know that you've hit Greek Revival when you come to a house, whoops, like that one, that puts its face right forward, puts the door in the middle of the facade and the gable right to the road. They're trying to make it look like a little Greek temple. And you see a lot of that, particularly here in the corner. So again, this is another old house. It's on Moultonborough Neck Road, small windows, no side lights, so essentially a big subdivision. It was granted in '67, right after the French and Indian War was over, and right before the Revolutionary War. So they had a really tough time to settle this town, but as part of their obligation, they had to settle not only to be grantees, they had to settle the whole town. They couldn't just start here and then move out. So you have all of these squares, and they're sold to different people, and so you find very old houses all over town. This is East Moultonborough, Clark's Landing Road, which was one of the very earliest settlements. But you have very old houses on the line and on Severance Road. You have old houses on the Sandwich Line, on Ossipee Mountain Road, off Sheridan Road, Bean Road, in the Neck, and this isn't that, you know, old. We're talking, they say it's 1814, I think. But one of the difficulties is that, of course, the very earliest houses did not survive, so we're really talking about 1800 for an early house. And this house is, this person is bold enough to actually date his house. I had got to give him a call and find out how he knows when it was built, since this is before building permits. But this house is on the Center Harbor Line, and again, there are old houses like Lodge Hill, Route 25, Severance Road, Bean Road, and Sheridan Road, and essentially all over town. In the early censuses, all the men were said to be, just about all the men were farmers, and all the women were keeping house. But I know they weren't dusting, because those little L's, those things off the house, that's where they made the spun yarn, made the fabric, pressed the cheeses, processed foods, and they also were used for cobblers. Anybody who went up to the library presentation, the Big House, Little House, Back House Barn, you know, understands how that all fit in with the subsistence life of the farm. And this is a later one. This is, now you're getting into Greek revival, but they still have the connections there. It goes up to the barn out here. But Moultonborough's population was continuing to climb. It reached its height in about 1840, but probably nobody living then knew that. And they just assumed that everything was keep on going the way it was. The earliest settlements, again, were in eastmost Moultonborough, but very soon, because of the outflow of water from Garland Pond and the possibility of mills there, Moultonborough Falls began to develop, and it was taking over from East Moultonborough as the center of activity. And here you see a variety of styles. Even though there's only a few houses there, it's a pretty good variety. This is a cape style. It's a half cape, because the door ends there, there's a wall there. A little hard to see with all that growth. This is also the cape style. And then you've got colonial revival coming in. You have big houses because there were a lot of mills there, and they had buildings that housed a lot of people. The census reports in 1854, that part of town show buildings with 8 or 10 or 12 single men who were living in it, sort of dormitory style, I would think.